Yeah, thanks for being here with us. So it's going to be a dialogue between Raoul and I regarding some generic questions about Life is Strange, and also we're going to have a Q&A after that. We're going to give enough room for questions. I know, yeah, so quite often people want to ask us questions about the game. So we're going to leave room for the Q&A, and if you don't have any questions, we're going to continue talking.
Yeah, I think it will be maybe 20 minutes of talking with Luc, and after 20 minutes of at least maybe more of a Q&A with this box.
So we don't have a cool slideshow. We just have this picture for the whole session, and yeah, it's a little bit messy. This is what we do at DONTNOD. We do messy stuff, but in the end, the outcome is is great.
Okay, so we are going to present ourselves. Just yeah, you can understand more about us. So my name is Raoul Barbet. I'm the co-game director of Life is Strange with Michel Cor, who's not there today. Just to talk a bit about my experiences, I come from an engineer school, and I've worked more in the audiovisual field at the beginning, in a film festival, game festival like here, and also in Canada and Asia in documentary movies and animation feature. My first experience in game is with Quantic Dreams, Heavy Rain. I worked as a motion capture technician for 1 year, and after as a game designer for 1 year. And after I made a long animated long feature, and I joined DONTNOD where I met Luc for their first project, Remember Me. It's a sci-fi action game. We will talk about Remember Me after, I think. And yeah, after Life is Strange during like 2 years and a half as a game director.
So me, I studied audiovisual and dropped it to play music. Had a heavy metal band, and I was just working as a video game in a video game shop as retailer, and I enjoyed giving advice to people about the games. And I wanted to work in the video game industry, as I cannot program. I'm very bad at drawing. I looked what were the opportunities, and I started as QA tester in mobile games 10 years ago, and I became a QA manager at Vivendi Games Mobile. So we had the first million seller, I think, on iPhone. It was a great time, but the Activision Blizzard merge shut down the department, and I joined DONTNOD as QA manager. And I helped, because I had the experience with the publisher. I joined the production team as associate producer on Remember Me, and on Life is Strange I became producer.
Yeah, Luc is really the link between Square Enix, so the publisher, and DONTNOD, the developer. So it's quite a difficult role, because you have to be kind and at the same time be violent. So yeah, it's very difficult, but yeah, it's a very important role that we don't talk a lot about sometimes. So yeah, if you have any question about that, let's go about maybe talking about the beginning of DONTNOD with Remember Me, if you want to talk very quickly.
Yeah, so DONTNOD was created in 2008. I joined in 2009. We were already like 20 people at this time, and the ambition was to create a big AAA game. So the 5 founders of the company had high ambition. They wanted to deal with more adult themes than one you can see in most of the game. The game was really ambitious. I think we had some difficulties with that, because we wanted to do so much. Like the narrative arc, narrative Bible that was created for the game was huge. It contained thousands of very interesting things about the memory and the memory theme. And yeah, the ambitions were really high, and we had difficulties. Like Sony, they dropped the project at some point. We started to do it by ourselves. We wanted almost to self-publish it, and Capcom was interested at some point. And yeah, the success was. We had great feedbacks regarding the art style, the music, but the sales were not that good. Many people have played the game since. I think the PlayStation Plus at some point was for free, so we had many players, and they enjoyed the art style, the music, and the game was not perfect. Also, the fact that it was released 1 week before The Last of Us was not the best choice for this the last generation.
So after Remember Me, we decided to launch several projects at DONTNOD, and Life is Strange. The name was What If at this time. Was one of the projects, but it was a very small one, the smaller one, I think, of the company. The idea was to sign a huge, not huge, but bigger project with a publisher and be able to do Life is Strange by your own. So self-publish it, etc.
Yes, sorry.
After discussing with some publishers, Square Enix came to see other big projects, but they were interested in Life is Strange, so we decided to sign, of course, Life is Strange with them and to publish it with them. But that's why also the main idea of the game was already done, and it was a small core team of 5 people who really wanted to do the game they had in mind. So when Square Enix signed the project, we already knew what we wanted to have in this game. So it's easier as a developer when you sign something really advanced, because you can't change everything because it would cost too much. So we knew what we wanted. We had the story at this moment, so it was easier for us.
And what they saw was the episode 1. You know, the scene when you arrive for the first time in Chloe's room, up until the end of the scene with David. So this is the slice of the game they saw. It was what we call the vertical slice, and it hasn't changed since. It was of course there was some polish, but we kept the scene as is.
Yeah. And just to talk a bit about the project, because maybe some people don't know the game. The very beginning was one of the founders who asked us to think about a game using the rewind mechanism you have in Remember Me. There is small sequences when you can change the mind of one people, and by rewinding time and changing small stuff, you've got some consequences. So following this idea, we wanted to have a game to maybe enlarge this idea to the whole game. So that's the very beginning of Life is Strange, and after we think about the story, maybe the high school settings, the teenager time, this moment of your life when you make a lot of decisions that will define you as an adult. It was for us an interesting setting with this choice and consequences aspect. So that's layer by layer that we created the universe and the story, and of course the character of Maxine and Chloe. And so just to sum up very quickly the game, it's a narrative-driven game with choice and consequences, like you can say a classic adventure game with like interaction, dialogues, and on top of that you've got a twist where the hero, so the player, can rewind time a bit to change our decision.
And the interesting thing, so we introduced the game for the first time to the press at Gamescom 2 years ago in 2014, and most of the journalists' reaction, because the other game they knew, this kind of game, was Telltale, where you have to make a quick decision in Walking Dead. You know, you have 5 seconds to choose if you want to save this person or this person. And the first reaction was, okay, if I can rewind every single of my decisions, it means that there's no point to make a choice because you can rewind. And we explained that the fact you could know what are the short-term consequences to your decision, but you don't master what happens next. And this was an interesting part of the game.
Yeah, so sometimes we really think that it's the process of thinking about the choice and not the choice itself what is interesting. So the important thing is to give enough feedbacks to the players and short-term consequences to I don't know, give him a doubt about his choices. So.
And what's interesting, so talking about Walking Dead is an episodic game. So as a game director on the writing process, why do you think you wanted to do an episodic game?
Yeah, just to because the episodic format was here since the beginning. When we see Square Enix, we already had 5 episodes written, so it means that we knew we wanted to. How could I say that? We wanted to explore this. I think this new way of tell a story, because with episode you've got. In game, there's not so many. You've got Telltale, of course, and other ones now. But the episodic format is, on a creative point of view, is really interesting because you know how the player will play your game. It means that with episode with 2 or 3 hours, you can really control the pacing and see that most of the players will play episode by episode in a wall on a wall. So with a huge game like a AAA game of 20 or 30 hours long, you never know when the player will stop. You never know if you will switch off the console between two scenes, very important. And here we knew that all the cliffhanger at the end of the episode, or the fact that two scenes put together are much stronger than one scene separated. You know that most of the player will play the way you want to play. And as developers, sometimes it's quite difficult to know the pacing. Here with episodic, you have to focus on, okay, how can I make those 2 or 3 hours long episode the most effective? So it's really interesting on a creative point of view, and also it pushes ourselves to write. For example, there is a lot of characters in Life is Strange, so you like more than a dozen for the main ones. So you have to be sure that the player knows the characters. And so on each episode, we've got like a narrative arc for each character, saying, okay, the player has seen this character here, maybe we can launch a new text message or adding a scene with the character to be sure that he know all about each one. So I think it's more efficient sometimes on a narrative point of view, because on big game, on maybe a longer game, it's quite difficult. Where as a player, sometimes you met a guy and you don't remember him at all because you have seen it like 9 hours ago. So yeah, I think episodic format helps a lot and also push us to be more effective on the narrative point of view. But I think it also gives a lot of constraints. I know, but I will ask you. On a production point of view, episodic is just a nightmare. So if you plan to do episodic, we can give some tips, but yeah, good luck.
We can give a talk next year. You want to do an episodic game? Are you sure?
Yeah.
Be prepared. Yeah, because it's really complex. We had the first planning we made for Life is Strange was really optimistic. If I look at it now, I cannot even show it to anyone because it's so unrealistic. We thought at some point that we could be able to work on many different episodes at the same time, because when we do an episodic game, it's not that the game is complete and ready and just artificially split in smaller episodes. We were working on each episode while the other were being released. So we observed that we couldn't really efficiently work on more than 2 episodes at the same time. Like one was in polish and debug phase, while the other one was in full production, while some people were already preparing the motion capture for the third one to come. So planning-wise, it was really complex, and for the teams also, because it's like releasing 5 games in a row. So you don't have this kind of usual pacing when you have the production phase, alpha, beta, and the final rush, and okay, it's over, we can enjoy and see the reviews. Here it's like you have finished, you have published an episode, and you're already late on the next one. And also everything that comes late, like if an actor is not available for a VO session, it delays your planning for a week. And it may be not that critical on a regular project, but on episodic game, when you have 2 months between 2 episodes, it can snowball and make things really complicated for the team. So even on the technical point of view, for the programmers, the first episode was supposed to be the full game, and then it's only data after that, so you don't have to patch the code. So we are not planning to do any patches, but we observed after episode 1 that okay, we missed this feature, or we want to froze time differently in episode 2. We want to add this small gameplay, and we had in the end like at least 1 patch per episode. And on the QA side, because each platform has its own specific, you have dozens of scenarios that are created. Like on some console, you can play without the patch installed, but will the game work? And it's really complex. And also, you have to take into account all the different platforms as well, because some publishers, some constructors, they want you to be able to play episode 3 without having even purchased episode 2. So for us, it was really weird. We couldn't assume that someone would just want to skip an episode, but we had to do that, and we discovered
Yeah.
the hard way that it was more
On a
complex.
technical point of view, it's really hard because of all those patches system and etc. Maybe I would talk a bit about the writing process because we've got a lot of questions about this. And so how we write the story, we've worked with a French writer, Jean-Luc Cano, who come from TV series and movies, and he has worked with us on Remember Me. He has made all the cameras on Remember Me. So he has written a story in French with all the episodes, etc. We have, but it was a great story, but a great story doesn't make a game. So with Michel, as game directors, we have modified the story to be sure that all sequences are fun to play, and also that be sure that the player know in each sequences what are the purpose of these scenes, and all the give all the necessary feedbacks, etc. It's a very long process to transform a good story into something interactive, and we love to do that. And I think it's really important to have, of course, this step because we're doing games and not movie or books, etc. So the idea was really to be sure that the player is involved in the story and that the story is in his own. So it's all about the choices, consequences, all the use of the rewind power, etc. So we've changed the story, and after we have hired an American writer
because it was a challenge. We are French, so how make sure that we have a good English script?
Yeah, we didn't want to be. You can hear our awful accent, so we didn't want to be the French guys doing a game about like American teenagers. So the idea was really to have a good American writer who can write directly all the dialogues, all the text of the game. For example, the text on the poster, the text message. It's quite difficult to write text message from teenager. I don't even sometimes can read the one from the French. So in America, it's more difficult. So the idea was really to work with Christian Divine, who is based in Los Angeles and near San Francisco now, and so he writes all the scripts, and we use this script for the motion capture session, for the recording session. The voices of all the actors are recorded in Los Angeles. So it's all American actors. It was really important for us to have the right accent, because in Oregon you don't have the same accent as in the south of America, etc. So it was, we had to be accurate, and again, as French, we had to be careful to not using too many cliché or you can see in TV series or in books. So it was really important for us to be accurate with the voices. So we received like, I don't know, like 20, for max scene it was like 40 different voices to choose the right one. So yeah, it's quite difficult to choose at the beginning.
Yeah, the German developer must not have the same problem as French developers, because you have you're best at English as we are. So yeah, for us on Remember Me, we had I think the process was bad. The script, the game script, was written in French first by a very good French writer, but then when you had to translate it by a writer, then a script reviser would improve the English test, and each time you have a different step, you lose something in the translation. And then even worse than this, at the end, after the VO was made in English, because the base always have to be English, it was translated back to French by other people, and the result in French was really, really weird even for us. So we tried to improve what we could, but the time was short for this. So having directly the script, even for the intentions, when Michel or Raoul wrote part of Dialog, everything that is sent to Christian is already in English, and he understands the scene, we can discuss, and he writes the script, what we think is the perfect script.
Yeah, and maybe we can talk about the choices and consequences, because on a technical point of view it was quite complicated, like you say, to have all the save files, because at the end you see in the game you can make some choices, and you have a beautiful butterfly saying that they will have some consequences. And the idea with this game was really to never lie to the player. So each time you've got this butterfly, you will for sure have consequences in each episode. So it was really important for us to have this and to gather all those information inside the files. So it's quite a nightmare for developers and level designers when you've got at the end like a huge Excel file with all the choices and consequences, because we got like I think 40 important choices and like 100 small choices. So you can imagine if you have consequences for each one, it's like like a nightmare. But it was really important for us to, because I think it helps the player to really feel that this is again his own story, and it's important to not lie, because when you play a game, you see when you think you will have some consequences, and you can feel that there is no, or it's just a character who has been switched, and so I think it's important to not lie to the player when you do this kind of stuff. So since the beginning, we really wanted to keep that in mind. Maybe you can talk about the music quickly if you want to add something, or
Yeah, the music part. So from the beginning, we wanted to have licensed tracks. The first even prototypes of Life is Strange, the first scene you guys made, where there was some already some music put on the scenes, and we wanted to have an original score as well. So we reached at first the main composer of Sid Matters, Jonathan Morali, to know if we could use his music into the game. And we discovered he was a big gamer. He loves Bloodborne and games like this. And he was really interested to create the music of a game with us. And the experience has been really great, even though there was some challenge to overcome for because of French laws that protects the artist. And we really struggled to have to be able to have a French artist on the score, which was really weird for us.
yeah,
And about the music selection, maybe.
Yeah, and those difficulties with French laws. That's also why we, at the end, in the soundtrack, all the artists are not French, except of course Jonathan, who has made the score, and we've got 2 titles of Jonathan. But all the other artists are not French, because it was too much time for us to deal with contracts and this stuff. We can't lose sometimes to do that, so that's why we've got this selection of other. I would love to have, I've got a list of French bands, but yeah, maybe next time, I don't know. But yeah, for the selection of licensed tracks, it was really important for us to have this mix between the score and licensed tracks. I think to have an existing song in a scene give a lot of strength to a moment, even if it's a cinematographic moment with cameras, just a cutscene. I think it gives a lot to have a lyrics and existing song. And of course, also using some songs that we love and artists that we love, and make them discovered by the player. It's something huge. And on a narrative point of view, you can really use also those songs to tell something about the characters. For example, Max and Chloe won't listen to the same music. Chloe will listen more to Sparkle Earth with PG Harvey or Amanda Palmer, maybe more punk aspect of the music, and Max will listen to neo-folk or stuff like that. I think you can really give some hints about the characters' developments with the music. And on the game point of view, the interactive aspect of music would be great. I think you all remember when you played a Red Dead Redemption, when you arrive in Mexico and you've got this music from Gonzalez coming in, and you are on your horse riding in Mexico. It's just for me, it's like a great moment in games, and we really wanted to let the player choose if he can, for example, put some music on his hi-fi in a room and just lie on the bed and just listen to the music like this. It's this kind of moments when you really make the choice to put some music and just take your time, and it was really important for us in this game to have those moments. The pacing is really important in the game, and this is something we wanted to have a lot of moments when we push the player to just look at the environment and enjoy the moment. It was something difficult to explain also with the publisher, because when you explain that to the publisher, you say, okay, it's just a scene when you're doing nothing, so what's the point? But it's because the player will choose to do nothing, even if it's not nothing, but just to wait and enjoy this moment. I think it's really important. But as a developer, you also have to give some rewards to those moments. That's why we have some camera angles, new camera angles. some
Music,
new layer
yeah.
of music, some voiceover of Max, all those what we called Zen sequences. When you sit on a fountain with all those cameras, those voice and those music, I think it would push the player to do it again and to take his time in the game. And it was really important for us to have this feeling
Yeah.
in Life is Strange.
The environmental storytelling is a very important part, a very big part of the game. We know that some players don't care; they just want to finish the game, to see the whole story, and they will go straight from A to Z without looking much around. And they still need to have a good experience. But also, what was really important is to reward the player who want to explore. If you see the environment around you, if you try many dialogues options, if you rewind, if you see, you explore all around, you will discover a lot of stuff through the art and what has been placed. And so you have to make sure that the environment tells something. If at some point in Chloe's house you see like unpaid bills and things like this, you can learn about the character and the whole story just by exploring a little bit more. And you have to give rewards for the player to do that, to make them want to explore your game.
Yeah,
more.
because I think if you have could say some interaction here on the desk and you say, okay, you do the look and okay, this is a box, okay, this is a bottle of water. Player will do it like 1, 2 times, 3 times, and after they will never do an interaction again because there is no need to know that. But if you give, okay, this is a kind of water I was drinking when I was young, this is a weird box they throw to the head of the other one. This kind of small stuff you can learn about the characters, about the universe. It will push the player to do it again and again, and it's really important to not having interaction just for the sake of having interaction. So, yeah, it's important to find the right balance between information and gameplay and narration. I think we got only one subject after. Maybe about the artistic aspect. You can see here a screenshot for the game. The idea was really to have this maybe non-realistic aspect of the game. Maybe more, we call it impressionistic. Maybe to be able to, on a production point of view, it helps also to have a non-realistic because we were a very small team. We made the game at the beginning. We were 5 people, and after we grew to 40, 50. At the peak of production, 50. So it's a very small budget on a small team. So we can't afford to have over-realistic environment and characters. But it was also a choice. Since the beginning, we wanted to have this impressionistic aspect to let also the player. I think with over-realistic, sometimes you lose the small details who are not very good will pop at your eyes, and here you can really add something on top of those environment and this artistic aspect. I think you let the player add something of yourself to this. I don't know if I explained correctly, I'm sorry, but if you're non-realistic, you can really add something, and maybe you can also dive more into the world. And this is really what we wanted to have since the beginning, this kind of impressionistic aspect. Maybe you can talk about the community now, the feedbacks, and because we've got some feedbacks about the game. Luc, if you want to.
So with episodic format, one thing that's unique is the fact that you receive feedbacks from your game while you're still working on it. People have expectations regarding the story, and they will send you some crazy theories, and sometimes they will be right about it or not. And the thing is, I think it's a really good thing because you have this kind of energy boost when you receive good feedbacks regarding what you're doing. Like after episode 1, we received many good feedbacks, and it was easier for the team to make the extra effort to publish the other episodes. And we received like a lot of gifts, cosplay pictures, and crazy art, and it's really give the team a lot of strength because you see that people are expecting the next episode, and it helps a lot. On the opposite, I think that working on episodic games that no one cares about must be really hard because you still need to to finalize it, even though no one cares about it. And
Yeah, we knew since after episode 1, we knew that at least we were doing the game for someone. When you're doing a game, you know that if you're developing some games, you're alone with your team and with some QA guys think that it's crap. And so it's quite hard sometimes to know if you're doing it right. So here with episodic, you at least know that as episode 1, we've got a small community liking the game. It gives a lot of strength to the team because, yeah, it's like you were saying, it's like doing 5 games. So yeah, I think it helps a lot. For this one, it helps us a lot.
And it helped the publisher as well, because that we were supposed to have this steady pacing between each episode. It was supposed to be 2 months. I think episode 4 and 5 it was a little bit bigger. I think we managed to get this extra time because we wanted the game to be good, and we knew that we couldn't make too much compromise. We didn't want to sacrifice the quality just because we had a pacing to keep. The game at first was supposed to be smaller than this. I think we sold it. It was supposed to be 1 hour and a half per episode, and we discovered that every element we added, we say about the environmental storytelling, each episode took maybe 2 hours and a half for players, and sometimes way more than this for people who explore the environment. So the fact the community was here and the success was there helped us push a little bit the limits and the budget.
And talking again about the community and the feedbacks, because we look of course at Let's Play and forums and stuff like that. We also it helps us also to improve the game, I hope, and to see, okay, maybe here this puzzle doesn't work, or here you need more info about these characters because players don't know enough these characters. So it helps us to adjust the story, even if we kept the story from the beginning. We got all the endings, all the story was there since the beginning, but the idea was really to adjust. For example, we had some scene for Kate characters, this kind of stuff that we see, okay, the players love this character, maybe we haven't closed the narrative arc of this one, so let's do again one scene if it's possible on a production point of view. But yeah, I think it allows us to make a lot of adjustments following the player feedbacks and the community feedbacks.
Maybe you have time for questions.
Yeah,
we could.
Sorry,
for hours. Sorry.
We tried to do
so
a plan.
We can start the Q&A question.
If someone, I will try to throw it. Oh, not
We're
so
very
far.
bad at I won't try. You can try if you want.
I will. Yeah, some helps.
Yeah. Yep.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
So you are doing this episodic release on Life is Strange, and I would like to know if you have the free choice, would you do it again? And if you would do it again, what would you change in your production and schedule and stuff?
Okay.
Very good question.
About the episodic aspect or about the game in general?
The fact of being episodic, you mean?
About the production, we've done this also before and had quite some challenges to meet deadlines and stuff, and it ended up being very, very stressful. So I would like to know how you managed this.
So if we were to do another episode game, I think we would we have I think some solutions for the problems we had, like not being over optimistic regarding what happened, plan some buffer, on key things, and like don't announce a date too early when you're not ready to support it. Maybe a good idea might be to keep a little bit the episode, even if it's ready before being released, just to make sure that the other episode will come soon enough. So not breaking the episodic format, because you still you don't want to have a complete game then release it to the audience, because it was a huge help to see that we were going into the right direction. So maybe hold on a little bit each episode, make sure the other one is ready enough, and before starting to publish the game. So I think if we do this again, we have a lot of solutions to problems we have, and we're gonna discover new ones. I think.
Yes, on a technical point of view, I think we are more prepared now, because there is really this episode 1 problem what is it's very difficult because you have to imagine that you have to launch this episode 1, think about what will be in episode 5, for example, the change of gameplay, the new characters, the new environment, because you have to have the package. We've made a game on Unreal 3, so it's different now, but you have some package system, and it's quite difficult to add some new stuff, so you really have to have all the technical and the code in episode 1. So even the menu, you see that for Life is Strange, we wanted to have a different menu for each episode. We have to design and create all the menu for all the episodes, even if episode 5 is in 1 year after, we have to be prepared for that. So I think, like Luke said, when you launch episode 1, you're stuck. So it means that you have to rush everything. So you really have to be careful when you launch episode 1, because players and the community don't want to wait. But so it's okay to wait like 2 months, but more, I think it's quite difficult sometimes.
And I think something we sure are going to be looking more precisely is about the leaks, because with the Unreal system, people started to explore, the PC players. They love to dig into the data and, I know what's going to happen in the upcoming episode. This part of a cinematic where that happened. We can see Max and Chloe kiss, and we are really sad.
We have made a lot of mistake about that. To let in the package some stuff, nobody are going to look into it. But yeah.
So if we're going to be more prepared if we do another game, and we're going to put like fake information.
Yeah, for sure. And also the planning is of course really important. And with episodic and with a narrative-driven game like this, we really have some 4 steps in the production. For example, you've got the writing process. After you've got the motion capture, and after you've got the voice recording. Those 3 steps are really really important, because it's you're using some external studios or external people to do it, so you have to be precise on your planning. And also, it's not you've got the intern team who work on all the other aspects, but those aspects are key, really the key of the planning. Because if you late on one, you are going to be late on the whole episode, because you don't have the motion capture, so it means you can't create the scene. And after, you don't have the voices, so you can't create the final cameras because you don't have the right rhythm. So those 3 process, writing, capturing animation, and voices, voice recording, are really important, and really have to be prepared, like Luc said, to have some buffer before those periods, to be sure that you're not late, because it costs a lot, because again it's external, so motion capture and voice recording, it costs a lot. So yeah, I think we have to be more prepared on those one.
Another one.
Yeah.
Over there.
Hey, thank you.
Hey.
Hello.
First of all, congratulations on what some call the best narrative game of all time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
It's quite amazing to me how the concept must have come together, of how the story and the characters work. What my question about this is it possible to actually have some game like this in a much bigger world? Because I think the story was that great because the world kept very small and kept the focus on the characters. So could you imagine how a concept could look like in this with a bigger environment, with the same kind of episodic feel to it?
Yeah, for sure. I think so. After you're right. What maybe is easier with this game is that it's a pacing. We've got a lot of variation, but we really wanted to keep this red line from the beginning to the end. So we knew that this is at first a story between Max and Chloe, and you've got all those other characters who add some layers to the story, but the main story is really Max and Chloe. So I think when you write a story, and Jean-Luc Cano, our writer, is really good at that, you really have to focus on what do you want to tell. Is it like a friendship story, a coming-of-age story, or to solve a mystery? For example, in Life is Strange, to solve a mystery almost secondary. It's not the most important, even if he push the player to continue and to unfold the story. It's not I think the most important. The most important is really Maxine's character and how she going to learn and grow up. Because of course, if there is a message, the message will be like to become an adult, you have to face your choices and the consequences. And the whole game is about that. So you really have to find the point of view of your game and follow it. But even if the world is bigger, it will be more difficult for sure.
Yeah.
But I think we've seen some other games who do that great. I've got some time now to play, so it's cool. I've tested Witcher 3, for example, and for me, on a narrative point of view, there is some great stuff, and it's like an open world. I don't know how they managed to do that. It's crazy. So I think you can do it. After, it's to choose the type of game you want to do. Do you want the player to do what he wants and follow the story if he wants or not? Or do you want to maybe push him to follow your story, even if he will do his own choices? You've got a story to tell, and so I think it's the right balance to find, and also maybe to choose what the game you want to do for yourself or for the team, because you can't please every players. So there will always be some players who say, "Oh yeah, it's too one corridor," or I don't know how to say one. It's not so open, and the other players want not to be so open. So you can't please everyone. So you really have to focus on what the story you want to tell, and if the story has to be stuck to not so many characters, and if you can enlarge it. I know the answer is not so precise, so sorry, but yeah, I would love to test with a wider environment for sure. I think it's really, and even the traveling stuff, I think it's great in story to travel. And for example, in Last of Us, I think they have made this very well. You really have this feeling of traveling, but you know the characters very well at the same time. So, yeah. You want to add something?
No, I haven't played The Witcher 3 yet, but for me it's a very difficult challenge, because sometimes in these open world games you have to save the world, and you have all these side quests, and you have to bring these back to someone, and you lost track of the story. I usually, on this game I lose the main pass, and it will be a very difficult challenge. You can say try to do World of Life is Strange.
No.
Yeah. No. Maybe we have time for another.
Yeah.
Hey.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good.
Hello.
On Remember Me, I was really surprised that you were like a relatively small team. I think like about 20 people.
And Remember Me? Oh, it was way more than this.
Way more?
Yeah. In fact, it was a huge team compared to Life is Strange. Like Raoul said, the team was smaller. We ramped up to 30, or between 30 and 40, and the peak was 50. But Remember Me, we went up until to 110 people, I think.
Okay.
So
sorry
maybe it
for
will
that.
change your questions. Okay, so no question.
Yeah. Then my question would have been like, it looked like very good. So I would have expected it to be a much bigger production, like 200-300 people. So 100 people is still good.
Yeah, but it's still a small team for this kind of production, for Remember Me, compared to other game. I won't say some names, but yeah, it's quite small to have like 100 people. And you're right, at the very beginning, during 2 years, it was 20 people, I think. I wasn't there, but I think you were like 20 or 30 people.
No, it was more.
Okay,
Yeah.
even with Sony.
Yeah.
Okay, and so yeah, it's more, but and as it was the first game of a new studio, I think it's quite brave for them to have launched a game like this, even if maybe it's not. There was some mistakes in the game, and I think let's do a AAA with adult themes inside, with a lot of action and a lot of narrative stuff and mocap, and that's also why I wanted to join the studio, because you don't have so many studios who say, okay, let's do a AAA now directly. The first one will be a huge AAA stuff. I say, okay, good luck, and it's still a difficult project, I think, and even if it's of course more than 20, I think.
So the company DONTNOD was built around the Remember Me project. So we struggled to do the game. We did some great stuff and some other less great stuff, and we also learned to work together. So even though you have a big turnover in video game companies, we have kept strong talents, and it was easier on Life is Strange to work because we had this first experience of working together. We knew how we wanted to work, what we wanted to improve from the first project, and it's really if you learn your lessons, it's really easier to make a second game. So that's why Life is Strange we could manage to have a smaller team and more confidence in what we could deliver. And when meeting publishers, it's way easier if you have done a first game because you don't have to prove that you can publish a game, finish it and do the debug phase and everything. You can do a cinematic. You don't have to prove you can do a cinematic and everything else. So yeah, it was way easier for us.
And I think you learn also a lot doing a game together is to be able to how can I say that as game directors, for example, or lead designers, you have to limit yourself and to be a small producer by yourself. Because you have to be able to say no to some. Even if you love those aspects of the game, you have to say no. We don't have time for that because we know that the planning won't fit. So you have to, as creators, to be able to say no, to know what are the important aspects of the game and the project. So Life is Strange, since the beginning, we have got a lot of meeting with Luc also to say, okay, what we don't want to do and what maybe we could do that if you have some time after, but yeah, let's focus on those aspects. And it's quite important to don't want to do too much, I think.
About the workflow, like how you got such a big project with a relatively small team. So I would guess you work quite modular with your assets.
For Life is Strange?
For Remember Me, mainly.
Remember Me?
But maybe both.
I'm not sure. The teams were built in a different way. The structure was more pyramidal. I would say each team had a lead of the team, and we had these big meetings with everyone. And it was based on experience people had in previous projects. And I think it was well organized, but it didn't serve the game that much. Whereas on Life is Strange, I really love the fact we had a smaller team. When we have 40 people, it allows the game director to come to sit, behind each desk and discuss with the people. You can have reviews with the whole teams and allow them to have feedbacks on what you do. Yeah, I really appreciate the fact that the team was this size. And going back to if we were to do a project with 200 people, we don't have a good experience of that, and I think it would be more difficult. So.
Yeah, the idea. I think what is really important is to communicate and to be sure that the team know what you're doing and why for example, if you decide to change to the story or to the game, or you decide to get rid of some aspect, you really have to explain to the team, because it could be quite difficult for a designer to see all his work. So when you don't have enough communication, it could be frustrating. And in a huge team like 200 people, sometimes you don't have this communication, because it's always lead who say to the team. Here it's directly us who have to explain to the team why we are going to do that in the game. So I think it is some aspect of the production.
And yeah, the short version is that communication is like the most important. All your problems, maybe almost all of your problems coming from bad communication, and the good things from good communication.
Thank you.
I think we've got one last.
Not sure.
Yeah, maybe one last, I think. Over there. You want? Okay, sorry.
All right. So you've mentioned the community. I just wanted to know whether or not you've, because with the rise of social media and all the forums on Steam and on your website, when did you know that community management as a job description was it had to be part of Life is Strange or DONTNOD in general?
Okay, so at DONTNOD we didn't have a community manager when it started. We have now hired someone really great, Anne, who's maybe watching us. But it started with Square Enix. They had a community manager, Scott, who really felt the vibe of the game and did a really great job to answer the people on Twitter and the questions. And the community was different because the themes in Life is Strange were different. The audience, a big part of the audience was not the usual gamer, even though we've seen on Steam people saying like, I only play Call of Duty, but I enjoyed your game and I was surprised to enjoy it. It was here we had a lot of audience that usually doesn't speak about games, and I think the community manager helped to capture this and sharing the concept art, the fan art that people were making, and I think also the fact that some of us, I don't know, Raoul is allergic to Twitter, but Michel, even myself, we really enjoy to have this close contact with the player, be able to answer directly some questions, and some other, I don't know, also do that.
Yeah,
I think the people felt the people behind the project were not just doing a business. For us, it's not a job. Of course, it's a job, but it's more a passion, and we are really loving what we are doing.
Yeah, at each release of episode, Luc doesn't sleep because he tweets all night with other people. It's just crazy when you can see him the day after. But yeah, we were very lucky about I think our community is very kind. It's quite rare on internet, so we're really happy with that. It's a lot of discussion, discussion about the themes also of the game. So that's what we wanted to do to talk about themes. I think that are linked to teenager life nowadays, and it was really important for us to have this dialogue, and the community is just great for that. They send us a lot of letters, unwritten letters, explaining that about their own life and own experience. It's quite, it's really something great, and a lot of letters moved me a lot. And I think we're very, very lucky with this community. And I think even if, like Luc said, I'm not over-connected, it's always something very strong to see all the feedbacks and to see all the let's play. And I think it's also a question of it's respect to give some feedbacks to the players, and it will become, I think, something more and more important. That's why we didn't add any community manager at the beginning, but I think after like some months we directly hired Anne, because it was really important for us to have our own at DONTNOD. Even if there is one at Square Enix, it's different. So I think it's really different. It's really important to give some feedbacks and to answer people when you can. You can't.
It helps the team. They will filter what are complaints and good feedbacks and prepare reports to us. It was said yesterday during the panel. People now start to understand how important the community management is. A company that had even the CD Projekt Red for The Witcher, they had they managed to build this great relation with the community. And once you've done that, you can make some mistakes, and the audience will excuse you. But if on the opposite, like you're doing really bad stuff, and as a publisher or developer, you mess up with your fans, it's really hard to gain back the trust. So community managers are here to help, and I appreciate the fact that the industry now realize that it's such a critical position.
I think we are out of time.
Over time.
Yeah. So thank you so much. I hope it wasn't so creepy and weird. We weren't so well prepared. Yeah. So thank you so much for coming.
Thanks everyone.
And thank you.
Thank you.